First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, bringing you continuing updates on what is happening with the trial in downtown Portland right now in district court with the state of California, state of Oregon, the city of Portland versus the Trump administration regarding the legality of sending in National Guard troops to the city of Portland. So this is something that obviously we've been talking about here for weeks. This is the trial that's happening right now. That one is regarding the actual legality of it. So it started today. It's going to go through tomorrow, possibly even a third day bench trial with one judge who is hearing from both sides. We'll bring you updates on that. But there's also more going on. That is not the only court case happening. There's a lot to really decipher here and to understand how all this works. And to really go into this, joining us right now from Portland State University, we have Professor Chris Shortell. And thank you for being here with us to talk this through.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you having time to go through this. And for everybody watching this, there's a lot happening here, and it does take a lot to really understand and go through all this works. And so I'm appreciative of having you join us. Would you mind, starting us off, just give us the kind of this overview of what these different proceedings are that are going on right now?
Yeah, it can be very confusing trying to follow it all, so that's understandable. We've got the main thing that's happening right now here in Portland is the trial with the federal district court judge, Judge Karen Immergut, who is hearing testimony from both sides, and those from the plaintiffs, the city of Portland, the state of Oregon, and the state of California, and then from the defendants, which is the Department of Justice, and so for the U.S. government. So she's collecting testimony, and she is eventually going to make a decision about whether to make her order permanent. As she had earlier issued a preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order, and she's going to now decide, does that need to be extended past the 14 days that a temporary restraining order lasts for? That's what she's trying to decide right now. What makes this confusing is there's also things happening in the Ninth Circuit. There's also things happening in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all these things are going on at once. So it can be hard to track and follow.
Yeah, that is a lot, that you just mentioned right there. And so with the Ninth Circuit Court, just to, address that side of things as well, which we don't know when that's going to go on yet. I was wondering if you could, for everybody out there, maybe explain what an en banc is. I'll be honest, if you don't follow, legal proceedings a lot, it's a term that you don't hear very often. Would you mind letting us know, what that is and how we got to this point of having that?
Yeah, of course. So when Judge Immergut issued her initial temporary restraining order that blocked the deployment of National Guard troops to Portland, the Department of Justice appealed that. They appealed that temporary restraining order to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. There was a 3-judge panel randomly selected who heard the appeal to that temporary restraining order. They handed down a ruling 2-1 that said that there should not be a temporary restraining order. Shortly after they handed down that decision, there was an appeal by the state of Oregon, the state of California, and the city of Portland to the entire Ninth Circuit. Now, the Ninth Circuit has 27 judges, and so instead of just those 3 that were randomly selected, they asked all the judges, is this something that we should revisit? Do all the judges on the panel, on the circuit, agree with the decision by those 3 judges on the panel? And the outcome is that the Ninth Circuit as a whole wants to reconsider the decision by the circuit panel. So they're going to have 11 of the judges, who again will be randomly selected, as well as the chief judge, and they will select those judges. They'll hear an appeal to whether this temporary restraining order should remain in place. Given that they're hearing an en banc review, that's what en banc is the entire court. they are likely to overturn the circuit's decision. A majority of the judges probably would not vote to hear an en banc appeal unless they thought there was some problem with the panel's decision, that three-judge panel's decision. So they're probably going to overturn that. That's what we would predict. At the same time that's going on, it may all be made moot by the trial that's moving forward here in Portland that may reach a similar conclusion, and then we can expect another appeal from that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I want to go into the trial itself, but ultimately you're expecting whoever comes out will appeal whichever side comes with win. For this trial, we have Judge Immergut there proceeding over this. What are some of the things from the judge's perspective legally that she's looking at when it comes to this testimony from both sides?
Yeah, so what she's trying to assess is whether President Trump, in ordering the deployment of National Guard troops to Portland, has sufficiently met the requirements laid out in the statute that would empower the president to do that. And in this instance, there are two things that need to be met, or that the Trump administration has claimed have been met. The first is that there is a rebellion, or a likelihood of rebellion, in Portland. And the second is that the carrying out of federal responsibilities is impossible to do with regular forces. That language is a little bit unclear. That's a question the Supreme Court's just trying to decide. Does that mean regular forces in terms of the military, or just regular forces in terms of federal employees? That's how the interpretation happened in the Portland case, is it's just with existing DHS officers, Federal Protective Services officers. Can they carry out their work? So that's part of what the judge is looking for. She's also looking for evidence at the time of the decision to deploy. And this has been a big point of contention, as DHS has pointed to events that happened in June, and they've said that's the justification for the deployment. The city of Portland and Oregon and California are saying that's not relevant to a September declaration, that there needed to be a deployment. And at the time of that declaration, there was nothing happening in Portland that would come close to justifying the deployment of those troops.
And looking at some of the testimony that we have heard so far today, it's largely been the Portland Police Bureau who have been speaking, giving their side of things. That seems to echo, very much what you just said there, from their point of view, that the protests did not come to the point of necessitating National Guard involvement. And
That's
it
right.
seems very starkly different interpretations of the actual situation on the ground down there from what we've seen so far.
And again, a big emphasis, different emphasis on time. So the Department of Justice is really emphasizing this was happening in June, and the city of Portland and Oregon and California are saying that may have happened in June. And by the way, Portland Police Bureau did declare a riot on June 14th, stepped in and did arrest people. But that has no bearing on what was going on in September, when President Trump actually announced the decision to deploy the troops to Portland, and that they're arguing that there should be more of a focus on what was happening then. Although, like good lawyers, they're arguing, even if you look at this other side's point, it's not a good enough justification, even with what was happening in June, that those protests were nowhere near the size of other situations where the National Guard has been deployed.
Yeah, they brought up Portland Police Bureau, asked, I'll just paraphrase this, but asked, to compare this to 2020, and basically saying that they're two very completely different situations there on the ground.
Yeah, and there are two other things that have just come out in the last day with regards to the trial. The Department of Justice had to correct their filing with the Ninth Circuit regarding the number of Federal Protective Services officers that they've actually deployed to Portland. They were inaccurate in what they said in the initial hearing and in the initial hearing before the Ninth Circuit. They were overstating the number of FPS officers that had to be deployed to Portland. They had to then correct that filing with the district court as well. So the district court is now looking at the information that the Department of Justice provided and saying, well, you said it was this percentage of the entire workload of Federal Protective Services nationally. And it was actually a much, much lower proportion of that. So that is a substantive change that the Department of Justice has had to make in the claims for their justification. That means if it wasn't enough to justify it when the judge looked at it the first time, if there's even less of an effect and drawdown on federal resources in reality, that may make it harder for the Department of Justice to succeed. And the second thing is that there were indications that actually DHS officers or ICE officers, some federal officers, actually deployed chemical munitions at Portland Police Bureau officers on an occasion. So that this was information about the interaction between Portland Police Bureau and the ICE officers and DHS officers that were there.
So a lot coming out here from, again, both of these sides with their different points of view on this, and a lot. And this is just starting, quite honestly. This trial just started today around 9 o'clock, and there's a lot of information that we have heard, from this testimony. And again, this is testimony, and both sides are going to have their chance to say everything. This is the side that's
absolutely.
First.
It's the plaintiffs are presenting right now. So that's the city of Portland and Oregon and California. The Department of Justice will have an opportunity to introduce their evidence and their arguments as well.
Yeah, so both sides will be heard, and this trial is going to continue on today. It's going right now. We don't know exactly how late it'll go. Our own reporter was saying he's speculating.
It will not go past 5 o'clock because of the federal shutdown. The judge has made it clear that there's not staff sufficient to keep the building open any past 5, so they need to be out of there by 5 p.m. every day. That's a result of the government shutdown.
Okay, well, there we go. So it won't go past 5. And tomorrow, it'll continue on, for another day, and then potentially a third day, it sounds like.
Yeah, expectation is 3 days. At least that's what they laid out. We'll see how long each side ends up actually taking.
Okay. Well, a lot to learn right here. And, thank you for being here to lay this out, too. And again, for everybody watching, there's a lot to understand, a lot of moving parts here. And as far as what's being said, we're reporting what is being said here in court. And these are the sides, and everybody's getting their say, and this is what's happened so far. So we do have a full rundown of that at kptv.com as well, so we'll keep everybody updated there. But if there's, if we do get another recess, actually, let me just ask you, do you anticipate, knowing how court cases work, do you anticipate another recess between now and that 5 o'clock deadline?
There probably will be something because it's a lot to go nonstop from lunch to the end of the day. But it'll probably be a fairly short recess. They took a shorter recess this morning, I think 15 minutes or so. So there'll probably be something like that. Again, it allows each side to get themselves together, take a little break, and come back to it. Allows the judge to take a moment off the bench as well. So there probably will be one more that will happen, but that's probably it, since they're really looking to be done by 5 today.
All right. Well, when they do have that other break, I'll just let everybody know, we'll be here to let you know what happened during that session, because while the court is in session, you cannot report on what's happening in there. It's only when they go to recess, so that's when we'll get we'll find out what's being talked about right now, and we'll get that to everybody when we do. But Professor, thank you very much for being here. May call on you again here at some point for analysis on this, if that's okay, but we really appreciate you being here on Fox 12 Now.
Yeah, glad I could help.
All right, thank you so much. And for everybody who's here joining us live, thanks for being here as well. So we're live streaming on the Fox 12 Oregon app. We're also you're watching on YouTube, thank you. We've got a lot of videos going over this, analyzing this. As the information comes in, we're getting it out to you. as quickly as possible, which means we can go live. So I recommend downloading the Fox 12 Oregon app. That way you'll get a notification, hey, we're live, new information. We will have that for you. But we're going to take a break for right now. And I'll tell you, I will be back in about 15 minutes with our own Spencer Schott, who will join, and we'll continue our coverage of this, whether it's new information that we're getting out or we'll analyze what's been out here so far anyway, because there's a lot even just right there. But we'll be back soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.